So I'm currently in my library, in the activity library, and I want to create a new activity for my students. I have something in Google Slides already, this information here. Students would be in slides, they would be dragging these items over to fill in the 10 frame and then letting me know how many sharks are left in all. So this is just one slide. I want to take this slide and then I want to add in these little boxes too. So I'm going to start a new activity and I'm going to come right here to create new activity. I'll give it a name and instructions. So for the student instructions, you can type out instructions. Just a reminder, you can add in those Seesaw icons. There is a link to the Seesaw icon worksheet in the description of this video. So I'm going to just say add for right now, and that will be add a response for the students. And then I'm going to come down here for a student template. So this is where the students are going to actually respond. So they would respond on top of this template. This, again, could be a background. We could add in things there so that students can actually either type in a certain spot or listen to something, but we're going to add a background. Most of the time, or sometimes at least, we're starting with a drawing, which is just that blank space. I could also start with a picture. So maybe I'm going to upload a picture for the students. I could start with a video, a link, or a note. In this case, since we're going from Google Slides into Seesaw, I'm going to choose this upload option. And then down at the bottom here, I'm going to say select from Google Drive. Since I'm using the free version of Seesaw, I'm only going to be able to add one slide to this activity. So just keep that in mind. If I had the paid version, I could add multiple slides. But we've got our information here. So this is now the background of that slide. So you can see I've got this slide here, and then it added it as a background. If I go to my hand and I click on this, the other nice thing is, and you can see it right here in the middle, it says unlock to move. So if I right click on the background of my Seesaw activity, I am able to lock all, which means it's going to lock the size of this. Let's say that this activity had more than one slide, and I really want the students to do all four. I don't necessarily want to make 4 separate activities. So here's what I would do. I would actually make this one a little bit smaller, and then I would come in and add another background. So I actually have the same activity here, and here's another version of that. So I want to add this one as a background. So I'm going to come up to the top, and I'm actually going to download this as a picture. And so this would be a way to get around those we can't use multiple pages. I would be able to add that background as a picture. So I'm just going to choose upload, select it from my downloads, and now I have both slides here, and I can kind of space them out if I want to. But what's really nice about this, because I'm obviously going to be adding multiple moving pieces to this Seesaw, when I get these 2 backgrounds set, let's just say I want the students to do 2 different problems, and this might be like morning work or something like that. I can right click on each of these and say I want to lock all. And that means I want to lock the location and the size of these backgrounds. So now these are locked. Okay, so now I want the students, they're actually going to fill out this 10 frame. In this case, I would probably actually have the students, I can add in my own shapes here. So I could do, several squares for the students so that that fits just about right. So I could copy and paste this a bunch of times. What I'll want to make sure that I do with these ones though is lock the size. So I've got this orange square and I'm going to copy and paste it. I just want to make sure that the size is locked for all of them. Lock that size, and then I can begin to stack those. So in this case, my manipulative that my students were going to be working with is just a square. So there's really nothing fancy about it. But let's say, for instance, that I wanted like one of these manipulatives actually in there. So what would I do? A few different options here, but the easiest option is actually to use the snipping tool on your computer. So I'm going to pull up that snipping tool and I'm going to click New. And then I will take a screenshot of this manipulative here, and then I'm just going to copy and Control V paste. It came in really big, but I can make it smaller. So now I have that manipulative. So that would be if I needed something like kind of custom, I could add in a manipulative using that snipping tool. I'm also able to obviously upload other pictures. So I can upload, we'll say, actually, I'll go ahead and upload a pumpkin just for an example. So here's a picture of a pumpkin, and maybe I have that is the manipulative for the student. With all of these manipulatives, my recommendation is always right click and lock the size. That's just going to be so much easier for our younger students to not have to worry about resizing things. That becomes very frustrating for them. So we're able to resize each of those. We as a teacher can, and then we can lock them so that the students cannot actually change that. So I have my manipulatives down here. I'm going to get rid of the pumpkin though. We don't need that. I've got two manipulatives here. We'll say this is enough. This is all I need for the students. Let's say though that I also want to read these problems to my kids. So what's the easiest way to do that? I don't have to go out anywhere to read that information to them. I'm going to click the three dots down here and I'm going to choose voice. This is different than selecting the microphone. When would I select the microphone? My students would actually be the ones to select the microphone. So let's say that I have the students working on an activity and I want them to tell me what they're doing in this activity. They'll click the microphone, and then as they drag these squares up into that 10 frame, they can explain their learning or their reasoning to me as the teacher. But if I want to give some voice instructions to my students, I'm going to click the three dots and choose voice. So then I'm going to say record voice here. There are 4 sharks swimming in the reef. 4 more sharks came along. How many sharks are there in all? So then it actually adds this little listen button here for the students, and you can see then they're able to listen to that. So I'm going to also click on this and I'm going to say lock. So students can still listen to it, but they're not going to be able to move it. So that's really helpful. And then I'll do the same thing over here. There were 3 clownfish swimming by the sea anemones. 6 more clownfish came to join them. How many clownfish are there in all? I have that button there, and then I'm just going to move it over here and always make sure that I lock it. So I lock that there for students. And then the students have the directions. I give those directions to them that they're going to fill in that 10 frame, and then they're going to maybe use the marker tool to write their number in the box. And then when the students are done, they'll click this green check mark. So for me as the teacher, my template for the students is complete. I have the manipulatives for them. I have the directions, and I've got the 2 slides that I want them to complete. So I'm going to click this green check mark, and it's going to bring me back to my activity library. And remember, we started these directions for the students, and then I'll just click save. So now let's see what this looks like for a student. So my student has come into their activity. They are able to click on this hand to move these items around. They can click listen to listen to the directions. Same thing over here. And then they're able to move the items into the box. If I didn't already add the shapes for them, they could also technically use the marker tool, or maybe they're going to color it in with their finger, right? However they want to add in those items. And then they're going to come over here and write their answer. So the students can use all of these tools over here. As I mentioned before, the students also have this option of explaining their learning. So let's see what this looks like. For the clownfish problem, I'm going to first draw 3 fish for my clownfish. Then it says 6 more clownfish came to join them. So when I add up 3 clownfish and 6 more clownfish, I have 9 clownfish in all. So now that the student has completed this activity, we have a big play button here. So from the teacher's end, we can actually see what that student did. So I'm listening to how the student progressed through this activity, and then I'm actually going to see them drawing and listen to their explanation. When the students are done, they're going to click that check mark to turn it into you as the teacher, and then it's going to come through in a nice little video for you. So that was the other option with that. That's where that microphone comes into play, is the students actually recording their response to you as the teacher. So that's how we add Google Slide activities to our Seesaw activity library for students to complete with those tools.